On the big story this morning, we look at UMEME. That's a troubled farm. Some people will tell you, others will tell you, no, UMEME is firm and continue to do its work. They have a concession that's meant to go up to 2025. There has been calls. Previously, Parliament wanted that contract terminated. That did not quite happen. And now, the President spoke out in a letter that leaked to the media. And he is concerned about a couple of things and is telling the Minister of Trade, why are we continuing with these guys? Yet they continue to do things the way they are. There's a heavy burden on the final consumer. Will anything happen this time round? But more importantly, how did we get here? How did we get here? Because if we don't get to establish and diagnose what that problem is, then we'll keep in the same problem with several other deals that the country has got to crack at the end of the day. My guest is the Honorable Thomas Taebwa. He's the Member of Parliament for Ruhinda North. Excuse me. A position that he occupied unopposed. I don't know why people fear you. Your people in Ruhinda North are not serious, surely. How could they let one man stand unopposed?
The way we handle issues in Ruhinda North is different. Our focus is someone who can deliver.
And you're the only one who can deliver in Ruhinda North?
I'll deliver for some time, and then I give way for another
How
person.
much time is that?
Not much long. Yeah, I'm not in for long.
Not in for long?
No.
Does that mean like 2021, 2023?
I was looking at having only 2 terms.
Are you still looking at that?
Yes.
Are you serious about it?
And I'm very, very serious.
When the 2 terms expire,
yes.
will you look me in the face?
Yes.
Wherever I will be, wherever you will be, and tell me I have run my race like I promised you, I'm not doing this again?
2 terms. That's me.
Thomas,
yeah.
We have had this promise before from some other people.
Listen, Joel, I'm more of a businessman than a politician. 2 terms. I just want to go back to my private sector.
We shall be watching. Anyway, Thomas is also a member of the Natural Resources Committee of Parliament, but he's also a member of the National Economy Committee, the guys that approve loans. So if you want loans, you speak to this man. Anyway, the reason we have you here is to do with UMEME, because now that falls in the bracket of the Natural Resources Committee.
Yeah.
We have had UMEME around, and anybody that you talk to out there, even those that don't have information, are bothered by the operations of UMEME. And some people, you ask them, so what exactly is your problem with UMEME? They might not put a finger to it, but they will make a lot of noise. Yeah. Point really is, we have a deal on our hands that does not look like a good deal for all intents and purposes. When you look at it, interpret it, you keep wondering, how exactly was this deal signed? You probably were, of course, you were not in Parliament at the time. You were doing your business and so on, but you have looked at the deal and the contract.
I was in the university.
You are at the university.
Yeah.
You've seen the agreement.
Yeah.
What bothers you the most about it?
What bothers me the most about it is the return on investment given to UMEME of 20%, and in dollars. Okay? I mean, whatever UMEME invests as approved. For example, this year, the Electricity Regulatory Authority has approved $60 million for 2018 UMEME to invest. Now, we shall pay a 20% return on investment to UMEME for the $60 million. What a deal. What a deal. Who would reject that deal? And I can't blame UMEME for that. It negotiated smart.
How about those that will tell you?
I will blame whoever negotiated on behalf of the government of Uganda.
Some will tell you that this infrastructure that UMEME is putting in place is going to remain with us here. Or is it?
No, every infrastructure, by the way, UMEME has nothing. UMEME has nothing. Because every investment it makes, every infrastructure it makes, it goes into the hands of UEDCR. UEDCR is the owner.
That's government
of Uganda.
So why is it a big problem then?
Now,
if, after all, whatever investment they're making is ours, so we can pay them the 20%. Some people will reason and say.
Now, let me tell you this. UMEME will go and borrow, for example, at around 2.5% plus the LIBOR, say 3%, okay? Borrowing at 3%. And then we Ugandans, on the tariff, we give it an interest of 20%, of 17%. Making it 20. Okay? You can never have that anyway. And moreover, in dollars. Because your electricity is priced in dollars. However much you see your bill coming in Uganda shillings, it's priced in dollars. That's why when you're looking at factors that affect the tariff, you have inflation, You have cost of diesel, because we have these generators, thermal generators, and then you also have depreciation of the shilling. Okay? All those are factored. After factoring them, you give UMEME 20% return on investment. So UMEME wouldn't be very bad per se, okay? But that 20% return on investment is what is killing us on the tariff. And what are the main problems that you get with Ugandans who are complaining about UMEME? Number one, the tariff. Number two, road shading. Despite the fact that we produce more power than what we are consuming. So that means you have a dilapidated grid which UMEME has not been able to revamp. I don't know whether it's because Electricity Regulatory Authority that approves all UMEME investments has not allowed them to do that, or whether they don't have the money. Okay? Two, road shading. You are just watching Joy like now, and power goes. I visited Kampala Cement with my colleagues on a Committee of Natural Resources. Kampala Cement that consumes around 50 megawatts of power, okay, gets 36 hours of road shading per week. Now, what that means, and this is a very big consumer, what that means is Kampala Cement will have to go and buy diesel to run their generators, which is far, far, far more expensive. You get it? And yet we are generating more than we can consume. So the issues, and UMEME is distributing 92.9% of the power we have in Uganda. So that's why people are blaming it.
How do we rectify this? Because you members of parliament have called that the agreement be terminated, the contract, but then there are issues with that. You're a lawyer, you know that for one to terminate a contract, there will arise issues because the terms and conditions. You can actually terminate a contract. However, you've got to make good certain things, compensations, etc., etc. Yeah. Can we afford to terminate this contract?
You can afford to terminate if you can pay.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Can we afford whatever the consequences
when I was reading through documents by Electricity Regulatory Authority, UMEME has so far invested $405 million since 2005. Okay? So if you're to terminate, you have to pay. To me, I don't believe in the termination. But going back to the president's letter to begin with, I was excited, but to me it was wrongly addressed. It was addressed to the Minister of Energy.
Who should it have been addressed to?
It should have been addressed to the Minister of Finance. Why? UMEME, whatever it does, it's regulated by Electricity Regulatory Authority. Electricity Regulatory Authority reports to the Minister of Finance, not Minister of Energy. And this has
ERA
been
reports to the Minister of Finance?
Yes, ERA. Let me tell you what can make you laugh. Uganda Electricity Distribution Company, Uganda Electricity Transmission Company, Electricity Regulatory Authority, Uganda Electricity Generation Company are all under Minister of Finance.
How is that so? How does Minister of Finance regulate them? Because I thought the technical people are in the Ministry of Energy.
That's what we are talking about. Cabinet has made resolutions. President has made directives. Minister of Finance has refused to release these entities to energy. So you are telling Honorable Irene Moroni to explain something he does not control. And this is a dilemma. Wow. Yes, this is a dilemma. You must first get these entities and you take them to Minister of Energy that has the technical capacity to supervise.
So in other words, you're saying the president's letter was too much talk, but there's little substance, nothing is going to happen.
No. You must first sort out the basics, okay, of who are you addressing. Then number two, I saw his biggest issue was the tariff. The tariff is not set by UMEME. The tariff is set by Electricity Regulatory Authority. And what composes the tariff? There is a fee for UMEME, there is a fee for generation, there is a fee for transmission, there is a fee for ERA. I have seen we have, like in 2018, we have provided 2.5 billion to UMEME for testing meters. For a new meter, they test at 8,000. For an old meter at 25,000. Or this is passed on to you. And to even make it worse, okay? the $5.9 million that is going to be used as transaction costs for renegotiation of Bujagari has also been added on the tariff. And when you say UMEME, why is the tariff high? No. The president needs to first call his own officers, call Electricity Regulatory Authority, come and explain why is the tariff high. Then Electricity Regulatory Authority will tell you A, B, C, D. Then you ask for the choice. Because why I was excited was because at last, us who have been in Parliament, quarreling over the issue of the tariff, you are connecting power to Mitoma, but people cannot afford it. That's what we call constrained demand.
Because only about 20% of the country is on the grid?
23%. We can only admire. And yet we are generating more than we are consuming. We are even exporting. Okay? When you look at 92.9% of our power will be distributed by UMEME, 5.5% of our power will be exported. But we shall also remain with the balance. So this means the president must first call his people and put them on a table. Now, like I told you, the main three factors, according to ERA, when it was setting the tariff for 2018, it's inflation, it's the cost of diesel, and the dollar. Okay? Now, this means diesel that has gone up way more, the dollar that has, the shilling that has depreciated the more, expect an increase in the tariff very soon. Another increase.
You know, before we get to prescribe a remedy for any situation, it's good to diagnose.
Yeah.
Let's reverse a little bit to that contract, that agreement.
Yeah.
The people that appended their signatures on behalf of Uganda.
Yeah.
I don't know whether as the Natural Resources Committee you've had time to interact with them. What did they have in mind? Perhaps they had a good enough reason, you know. What did they foresee? How did we get here?
You see, when you're going to negotiate with a company like UMEME, whom does it send? It will get the best from the market, the best lawyers. You, Uganda, you'll get our people from the ministries who are poorly paid with a per diem of how much. You send them to London. In the end, they are looked after by UMEME when they are supposed to negotiate with it. Okay? So, but look, the people who did the review, I think what they did was a criminal act. The three people.
Who are these three again?
I think I remember the former PS Energy, Kawagambe Karisa, the former boss of transmission, Haji Chiyimba, and some other gentlemen, I think, in privatization unit. They went and negotiated the worst deal. And in such a negotiations, I mean, what do I focus on? Number one, give me low targets. Then I overshoot. And then I claim I have performed very well. Okay? Give me a very good return on investment. And then maybe I can look after you. That's why when you talk about UMEME, everyone in government is about to kill you, especially these big people. And our fear is UMEME must be looking after very, very many people.
You mean that money keeps exchanging hands?
That's our belief. And I can tell you it must be. And this is where we say, look, we are excited with the president coming in, okay? Personally, I don't think the termination of UMEME's contract is a solution or the failure to renew. Because I'm told there's someone who called me yesterday, there are people who are already screaming for it. Now, if you got UMEME out of the way, you bring another private player who will also do what UMEME is doing. What are you doing? So our proposal as Parliament is start building the capacity of UEDCL, the distributor. Okay? Right now, UEDCL is distributing only 1.2% of the power distributed in the whole country. We are saying if National Water has been able to distribute our water very well, okay? If we are building capacity for generation, UEGCL is our Parliament Natural Resources Committee that fought. I'm told ESCOM was already scheming to take control of Karuma and Bujagari and Isimba. And we said no, build the capacity of our very own. Now, ESCOM, which is another problem by the way, okay, is getting a return on investment of 12% for every dollar it invests. of course, it invests little. I think it has no money. It's in charge of Kira and Narubari Dam that contribute around 380 megawatts. Okay? But when you look at what they are doing and you compare with what you are supposed to be getting, we have a raw deal. So we are saying, build the capacity of government companies. UEGCL is training 50 core engineers that are going to run Bujagari, that are going to run Karuma, that are going to run Isimba. And we are also saying, with the capacity that UEGCL is getting, please don't renew the concession for ESCOM. Let it be managed by Ugandans. If you got ESCOM, you'll find one South African. I went to Bujagari. There is only one senior Kenyan engineer. The rest are Ugandans. UMEME, the MD, and all people below are Ugandans. So if they are doing a good job, my brother Celestine Babunji is doing a great job at UMEME in terms of delivering for the shareholders. Take him to UEDCL.
So you're saying, as Parliament, you're recommending don't terminate this contract. Let's see how we build capacity. But in the meantime, we are going to bear this brand up to 2025.
I can tell you, Joel, I can assure you, a termination will be another opportunity for people to pay hundreds of millions of dollars and benefit. Termination. So what the concession for UMEME is running out in 2025. And by the way,
that's a whole 7 years from today.
Some people are not genuine, Joel. People are not genuine. Recently, in Natural Resources Committee, when we were discussing the budget framework paper, the executive director of ERA, Madam Engineer Ziria, told us they are not in any negotiations with UMEME. Okay? Shonubi, the lawyer for UMEME, released a statement saying UMEME is already in negotiations with government to renew the concession. But she told us, we asked her 3 times, personally I asked her, are you negotiating with UMEME to renew their concession? Because UMEME is saying we are not getting money to invest, okay? Because the renders are saying first renew your concession. So what you need to do is very simple. Start building the capacity of UEDCL, okay? Sort out other issues that affect the tariff. We can call UMEME the monster, but the moment you remove UMEME without addressing the underlying factors, again you will remain with what? With a very tight tariff.
I look at all these different companies. There is UEDCL, the distributors, there's UEGCL, the generators, there's ERA, the regulator, there's REA, Rural Electrification Agency, of course UMEME, which is the other one that I've forgotten.
There is one for credit, energy credit.
Do we need all of these things? Because you see, at the end of the day, you're going to have a budget for each of them. And it's not little money we're talking about.
You know, what's very funny, if you go back and you look at how all this happened, the consultant for unbundling UMEME, UEB, was Paulo Mare. Huh? That Paulo Mare was working with ESCOM. Okay? Now, ESCOM owned 49% of UMEME at the beginning, with the Katik Actis owning 51%. After unbundling and giving a deal to UMEME, Paulo Mare came and became the ED of what? Or the MD of UMEME. You're seeing the cycle? And now, with due respect to my colleagues in Parliament, the ministers, okay? Honorable Simon Dujanga, he was the boss of UEB. Engineer Irene Mroni, the same. The people who oversaw the defunct UEB are the people overseeing the sector, and they are the people you're asking solutions. Are you surprised?
So what do we do? I'm imagining there are viewers looking at you, and they are worried about all the things that you're talking about. They're thinking, wait a minute, this looks messy. How do we get out of this mess?
The only way we can get out of this mess, number one, is by, to me personally, I do believe, start building the capacity of Uganda Electricity Distribution Company, and we proposed it when we were discussing the budget framework paper.
What do you mean by capacity? You mean training people? Do we have a qualified folks there?
The budget for UEDCL this year, the proposed, is 6 billion. What can 6 billion do? So and it's distributing 1.2% of the electricity in the country. They own the infrastructure, but someone is running it on their behalf. So what we are saying is, let's give more money to EDCL, and then we start giving it the projects that are coming up. Because UMEME, the president's letter, I'm sure, must have scared very many people. Yesterday he held a meeting with the bosses of UMEME. But it will do little damage control. The damage is already there, because he's resonating with the arguments of many Ugandans, of parliament. So build the capacity of your EDCR, start slowly transitioning. You have 7 years to do all this, okay? If not, renegotiate with UMEME. If you manage to negotiate a return on investment of 12% for ESCOM in 2004, okay? And then in 2005, how did you give UMEME 20%? And like I have said, I can't blame UMEME. They were good negotiators. So when you do that, if you can't do that, if you don't want to give our national companies to do that, then open up to competition. Open up to competition. Anyone who can come, invest very well.
Wouldn't that be a bit problematic? Because you see, there are certain goods and services, because of their, we like to call them public goods and services, because of their necessity element. You don't want to have too many players, because ultimately there will be a problem with the consuming end.
No. We are not getting problems where UED said is distributing. Are you getting me? We are not getting problems where Kirembe Investments is distributing. The one that had problems was FADSART. I think they did away with it. So what you need to do, once you open up that, and you open it up to competition, I'm very sure, even if you reach these people of UMEME, if you reach the chairman of Taturi, if you reach the MD, Mr. Celestine Babunji, I think in their own hearts, they are very sure they can admit whoever negotiated that 20% return on investment. Because the return on investment, all that burden is paid by you. The end user, yes, the end user. So the moment, if you can reduce it, for example, to around 10%, because UMEME has a capacity of borrowing at around 3%, and they make a profit of 7%. Or another option, which some of us are exploring, we are studying it deeply, is take away the investment component from UMEME. Give them a management fee, if they are good. Okay? Then I have seen loans we are borrowing for what? We can borrow. We invest in capital development. Okay, we invest in repairing the grid. We invest in distributing power, and then that end user will have to pay for that, but at around 1.2% interest or 1%. I have seen Islamic Development Bank giving us loans with a service fee of around 2.5% for 25 years. Only one of 2.5%. So if you can get such a loan, you invest in repairing the grid, you invest in extending power to industrial parks, you invest in ensuring that we don't have all these outages that we get every day, and then Ugandans will appreciate the service. But as it is now, the answers shouldn't be coming from UMEME, but from Electricity Regulatory Authority.
There was a time when government used to subsidize power to a great extent. That did not seem plausible. I don't know to what extent they do that subsidization. And some folks are saying, well, things the way they are now, government should chip in a little bit more. You've talked about industries that are struggling. Why? Because their power bill is through the roof. Yeah. And so some people are thinking government should subsidize a lot more. But of course, there are others who will tell you, wait a minute, government cannot do everything, because again, that's taxpayers' money. Let government focus on other things altogether. Private players should stand up and be counted.
We are already subsidizing. This year alone, we paid 112 billion for subsidizing power from the thermal generators, Electromax and Jacobsen. 112. And you know what was funny? When it came to Parliament, we rejected it. We said, why are you paying these thermal generators, okay, Yet we are producing excess power. Where we know you can't rely on hydro alone, but we are saying, why are you taking all this much? So, but we signed what we call capacity agreements. Capacity agreements, they mean that you either take or pay. So whatever I'm producing, if you can't take it, you'll have to pay for it. That's a norm internationally. I do accept. But we came in and said, no, why don't you renegotiate this? So we refused to pass the budget in Parliament. When we rejected it, Minister of Finance went and paid these people under supplementary. You know, we give them a window of 3%, which they can use and come for retrospective approval, according to the PFMA. But all that was aimed at handling emergencies. You get it? And not every time government should come back to Parliament. But it was used to pay these people. So this time, we stood our ground. I think in the next budget, the thermal generators, the subsidy the Ugandan taxpayer has been paying to them is going to reduce from 112 billion to around 46 billion, which is a very good achievement on the side of Parliament and the Electricity Regulatory Authority that responded very well. So, Tanzania, by the way, what is very funny, Uganda has zero power tariffs in the region. We are only beaten by Tanzania. Kenya is higher, Rwanda is higher, but these people import most of their power.
Is it because of a similar situation here, agreements and so
on? No, I think they consume more power. Manufacturers in Kenya consume 900 megawatts of power, okay? In Uganda, the whole country will consume around 540 megawatts. The whole country. And when you look at what is coming, and Ugandans should even bless themselves for more tough times ahead in terms of power, by the way. Last time the president came, said he wants to reduce power to around 7%. But look, you are talking basing on around 750 megawatts, which you're generating as a country. In December, you're adding on Karuma, Isimba, at 183 megawatts. Next year, you're adding on Karuma at 600 megawatts. You have very many mini hydros that are coming. In short, you're going to add around 1,200 megawatts onto the national grid. And all that, you have capacity agreements, okay? Now, but the consumer base has not improved. If you connected the rest of the country, for example, we are projecting to be connecting 300,000 homesteads per year, okay? Those 300 homesteads are going to be consuming 10 to 15 megawatts only. So where do you need it focus if you want the power tariff to go down? If you want the power tariff to go down, please develop industrial parks. See what you can do to the manufacturing sector. If you're going to have 1,900 megawatts being paid for by the same consumers you're having in Uganda now, it means your tariff is going to triple. Or government will look for money and pay for subsidies, which are very, very expensive. Because we pay Bujagari Aron that has 250 megawatts. Every month we pay it $13.8 million. Okay? So, but Usukuru plant in Tororo, Aron, is going to be consuming 200 megawatts once it's at full operation. Starting this year, it's expected to be consuming 60 megawatts. Kampala Cement is consuming 50 megawatts. If you connected the rest of the country to power, we consume an extra 320 megawatts. Meaning one factory can consume 50% of whatever domestic Ugandans are using. So the solution is develop industrial parks, distribute this power, so that this power that is being paid for by a few people can be paid for by many. What we have done in terms of the generation, it's like in Parliament the other day on the floor, I told them it's like building Sheraton Hotel, that good building, but you don't put in cutlery, you don't put in beddings, you don't put in what, you just have a white elephant. We invested heavily in Bujagari, in Karuma, we invested heavily in Simba. We have not invested in the distribution, okay? We have not invested in repairing the grids. I mean, that's a problem.
Every so often, UMEME does call a meeting, and sometimes it does happen here many times. They call consumers, the general public, to come and have an input in, things to do with the tariff setting, etc., etc.
That's Electricity
Regulatory Authority, and of course, UMEME people are there as well. Does this help in any way? The feedback gotten from consumers, their participation, can this work?
What do I want as a consumer? I want a low tariff. Okay? But to come to a low tariff, how do they come to a tariff? How they come to a tariff, these companies, the generation companies, that is the Karuma, Jagari, Eskom, and all that, then they will put in their bills. The UMEMEs and all that, all the players. After putting in their bills, then they will take them to ERA. ERA will do public hearings, do consultations, and come up with a proposed tariff. After coming up with a proposed tariff, that consists by the very many things, very, very many. If you look at the breakdown of the tariff, you'll find a lot of things. I told you, for example, testing meters. You're paying for testing meters. You're paying for transaction costs for Jagari. Okay? You're paying for operations of Eskom, for operations of UMEME. You're paying a fee for rural electrification agency, despite your village having no power. You're paying a fee for generation. You're paying a fee for UETC.
When does Parliament allow all these things? Because if we cannot come in with the UMEME agreement for now because of its issues, but we can rein in on ERA, for example, can't we?
Yeah.
Why aren't you people doing that?
Yeah, we are trying to do that. We are trying to do that. But you see, when you are to do all these changes, you need the backup of the technical people in government. The technical people in government, personally, I'm frustrated. So, but we are working out something as a committee. We are working out something. And especially in relation to renewing the concession for UMEME. Okay? We are working out something. And I believe in not more than, a few years to come, if someone makes a mistake for the first time in a few years that have passed, we are going to have a minister censured.
Why doesn't that happen for the past? I know some people will say, well, it's in the past, let's move on. But it's if mistakes were made, these things can be dug up and people get to be held accountable. Because if that doesn't happen, people will continue to operate with impunity, do whatever they want to do in a wanton manner. After all, it happened the other time, it was justified, nothing was done at all, so it's business as usual.
But you see, when the president keeps, like in his letter, he's referring to around 3 people, okay? But one of them is his advisor, senior advisor on energy. And
you people can't take action against that person?
Are we the ones to appoint him?
No, because you see, as Parliament,
the person
you superintend and oversee the operations of the
person
executive.
complaining is the one who appointed him. I don't know whether he even read through this letter because he's a senior advisor on energy issues. He's seated with him. He advises him every day. And then you write to the minister. But he's around you. Why not take action? Start with the people who are around you, whom you see. They are they are glaringly in front of you. And then you write to the minister to go and explain about UMEME. First, show us the goodwill by sacking those people around you. But Uganda, they'll be rewarded even much bigger.
So who is fooling who in this case? Because the people have looked at that later. Some people have gotten excited. Others are thinking, well, this is a red herring. You're just trying to, to create a facade of sorts. Show that you are angry and taking action, but there's little or nothing that's going to happen.
Yesterday, the president met the bosses of UMEME. And I saw on the Twitter handle of the PRO of UMEME saying UMEME, they've had a cordial meeting and what UMEME is here to stay, jubilating. Okay? So personally, I don't get excited by those letters. But I was happy the president has woken up, but I don't get carried away by the letter he wrote. We have to remain steadfast, us who have been very clear on this issue. We have to keep watching every day. I saw people celebrating UMEME's concession won't be. No, the president's issue, he doesn't have any problem with UMEME. Like how I don't have a problem with UMEME. I only have a problem with the service I'm getting. I'm saying I need a good service. This road shading, I'm tired of it. I'm saying this tariff is so high. Who is in charge of the tariff? That's why I'm saying this letter should have been written to either Minister of Finance or the executive director of ERA to explain. And then he would have explained what UMEME does. But I'm very sure when the president, when these guys went to the president, they just told him, Your Excellency, we don't set the tariff. Your Excellency, our contribution on the tariff is just this simple. There are other factors affecting the tariff. And he says, oh, so I mean, because when you read the president's tone in the letter, he seemed angry and he seemed blaming UMEME for the tariff. Okay? But UMEME will say, no, we don't. Our tariff is approved by your own government. We cannot charge what is not approved by your own people.
All right, my time is up. But finally, as we wrap this up, you MPs, you have a Natural Resources Committee. You're the people that oversee government works. What assurance are you giving to Ugandans? Ugandans who are tired of a high tariff, yes. Ugandans who are bothered by the service, which you're bothered about as well. Yes. What kind of, I don't know, soft landing are you giving them? What reassurance do you have for them?
Number one, we've started looking at all factors that affect the tariff, and especially those ones for which we can have a control. Leave alone your inflation, leave alone which we natural resources can't control, but we are looking at who takes what on the money paid by Ugandan. Okay? So, UMEME, if you're taking around 36% of the money paid, your return on investment, let it be reduced to around maybe 10%. That can translate into a reduction of your of what you take from around 36 to around 20%. Okay, that's a very huge. That's a very, very huge impact on the tariff. We are saying, why are you charging a Ugandan end user to pay for transaction costs of Bujagari, and yet you're negotiating with these guys? Then we are also saying we are going to get more money to invest in industrial parks to ensure the power is distributed. But this business of running around, we shout, even if you shout, they will get another company that will come and also even perform worse, and the tariff will remain high. But we also have to ensure that the entities that do have capacity to regulate, okay, the electricity sector, are the ones in charge. We want these companies out of finance. Let them go to energy, so that when we are interacting with Honorable Muroni, with Honorable Djanga, we know they are in charge. But when you interact with someone who is not under your sector, then it becomes difficult.
All right, let's watch and see. Hopefully things do get better. Honorable Thomas Taibwa, thank you for talking to us.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for The Big Story. Thank you for joining us. My name is Joel Senyonyi. Good morning.